G'day, mate. Welcome to Friday Facts 336. I have Offshore Pump Redesign. I've got Redesign Mojo again, because I think I've used that one.
Yeah, you got the new and improved model.
I could have an Offshore Mojo.
You want the cheap Chinese knockoff?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's funny. It's actually a Friday. It's actually a Friday, and we're doing Friday Facts because it came out super early. So we
9
can...
PM.
Yeah, we can definitely say that they definitely do pre-plan the Friday Facts. I don't no idea why they come out super late sometimes, and occasionally on a Saturday. But it's a super early Friday Facts, and this one it's short, it's simple. It's about the offshore pump. We can still make a 45-minute video from it. It just happens. But one of the few entities that don't have a high resolution graphics are the offshore pumps, and Mojo already looked it up. They got a graphics redesign in version 5.
Yeah, I had tried having a look at what they were before that, and I couldn't find. I imagine it was probably a placeholder though, like a grey box which said offshore pump.
Possibly.
So it was the mining drill before, like version 4 or 5.
Yeah, there was a lot of placeholders back then. In fact, I think half the factory was placeholders back then.
Pretty much.
But it does, like, the very, very important line at the top. The offshore pump is practically a one-tile entity, but they must have a one-tile gap between each other. It's also the only entity placed on a water tile at the moment.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
It is.
At the moment.
It's either a hint of, like, there's more to come in version 1.0 that we're not telling you about, or a hint at the DLC that they're planning or not planning or suggesting, or I don't know.
It's implying that something is going to happen to water.
Yeah, and yeah, they are right. Like, the offshore pump is the only thing I can think of that goes in water, even in most modded games. Like, most modded games, you know, you do have the shipping rails for those that want to put ships in their game. But
ship trains.
Yeah, the ship trains. But yeah, I can't think of anything that really bothers with the water at all. There is an offshore pump jack in one of the water ship mods, train mods.
I'm pretty sure that's the same water train ship mod that does that.
I think there's 2 or 3 water train ship mods. I think one only has ships, whereas the other ones just have literally water trains. But yeah, there's very few things that interact with water in the game. So yeah, one of the things is when they change the way terrain to water transitions work, they move the offshore pump to be placed on the water tile. This can result in the pump drawing over the terrain in ugly ways. So it was something they changed when did that come in? Like 17?
Earlier than that, when the water transitions, I think, was 16. It was when it went from the flats transitions to the steps transition.
The slightly cuter ones we've got now.
Yeah, which I think was 16 because it was with the concrete.
Yeah, that seems to ring a bell. But yeah, they moved them slightly back, and they've looked a little bit odds ever since, especially if you have narrow water channels because you've landfilled in everything else, and you can see the pump going into water inland. It's just something we've just glossed over, accepted, and moved on.
And also, if you landfill over it and turn it into a land pump or land water well pump,
water well. That's what
really weird with that. I don't think they actually have that name in it anymore.
No, it's still called a water well. I actually had somebody checked on it yesterday, 2 days ago.
So I noticed a few of the other Easter eggs have been removed, like the landfish.
The landfish were funny. They were funny, but yeah,
they were hilarious.
They got removed. I do have to point out, like, as a game that is all about symmetry, why is this first screenshot, that bottom pump, not in the middle of the screen? They could have slid it, the whole graphics over by half a tile, and it would have been right in the center, and it's not. And I know somebody is now absolutely frustrated now I've mentioned it. But yeah,
it's because there's 7 and 7, so it's an even number. So it needs to be an odd number for it to sit.
We're going to get down further. There's going to be one that's offset. Yep. So
actually, it's 2 tiles, isn't it?
Yeah. They did They did a redesign, and they took the opportunity to move the offshore pump back on the land, which is probably good. And additionally, the pump checks for a 2x3 water tile in order to be buildable. So that's like previously.
That's new.
previously they did check. So you needed a 2x3 water tile to place a offshore pump. But now it seems like that second check has been forcibly put in, and the entity now has this blue box, which I'm assuming means it requires their water to be there, or it's something indicates that has to be water to place it originally.
Yeah, it indicates that that's where it's looking for water. It actually also indicates hitboxes for modern elements.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. We all learnt something new.
That's what it's telling me. And also, I wonder if you can actually place them next to each other, though. Or if I wonder if the offshore pump.
I wonder if it needs a 2x3 or just a 2 by like 2.5, or 2 tile but half offset, so you get them not quite beside one another, but a 1 tile gap between them.
In fact, I think there has to be I suspect there has to be a 1 tile gap between them if you wanted to make a whole line.
Well, that's what we have currently. There has to be a 1 tile gap between your offshore pumps.
That's true.
Right, so that's probably why the hitbox is the water hitbox is slightly odd in shape, so they can sit right beside one another.
You can actually see the red one for the actual hitbox expands over that 1 tile just slightly, which would block anything from being placed in the neighboring. Or most things, at least. Maybe not like power poles or such.
We'll have to see what happens when it actually gets released.
We'll find out when we get there.
But yeah, so the new replacement rule only applies to newly built pumps. Offshore pumps, existing maps will keep functioning. They'll just be shifted out from the shore. So they'll just look odd, is basically what that says.
Just like when they shifted them the first time ages ago, where I remember my version 12 map, suddenly they're off out in the water and it drove everyone.
Yeah, and there was a gap in the pipes. You could actually see a gap between the pipe and the pump. Just because they just got shifted in a weird way. So yeah, on top of that, there's no blue integration that we used to have with the back of the water well, the offshore pump, where it connects to the water. That's gone. And instead, because we have the new pumping graphics, we're just going to have water in the pipes, which should make them look a little bit more normal and respectable when you landfill the whole area in, which we're all going to do.
Which is really nice, yeah.
And this is the one where the pumps and that magic line comes right down the middle of the pumps, just for the record. Now people are frustrated about the previous images. And also, they also say because there's no blue color, offshore pumps will look correct even with unexpected water types. Not a big problem in vanilla. We do have, what is it? It's the green water, the really dark green water.
Yeah, the dirty water.
Yeah, there's a couple that are only accessible really in the editor. They're not actually in the game when the game's auto creating a map for you, but they do exist in the game.
Gen.
Yeah. So yeah, the water integration is still split to an underwater layer, which does not show up when the pump gets landfilled over. So we can get rid of that hitbox disappears after we apply landfill. I wonder what happens if you reverse the landfill, because there's lots of mods that put the water back.
Usually when they collide with the actual entity's hitbox, it deletes the entity or destroys the entity.
No, explosive excavation. You can actually carefully, very, very carefully, you can put the water back. You can't put down all 6 tiles at once. You've got to do them individually, because it does damage to the entity as well, because it's explosive. But I have seen people put some, if not all, of the water back. It's something I'm going to have to test when it gets released. Which, in theory, going off last Friday facts, should be on Tuesday. Right?
That is true. So we should see it on... I imagine as it continues scrolling down, I don't remember seeing coming soon on Tuesday.
They didn't say that. They didn't say that. But in theory, because that's what they did say last week. So the basic concept, the offshore pump is another type of pump. It should be similar to the other pump entity Albert made a few years ago, including the animation and the visible fluid in it. The obvious difference is the connection to water. However, we felt it's not different enough. It needs more visual balance. So we add a pair of supportive legs. So there's supportive legs that go on the ground. I think it looks great, honestly.
It does look really good, and it does fit the new aesthetic, or the more modern, contemporary aesthetic compared to the older sort of very super... Well, I called it downscaled, realistic, photorealistic.
It looks like a pump that you'd probably find out in the middle of nowhere, hooked into a dam, shoved into a water supply, and a really downscaled copy that somebody's found on the internet, and then maybe modified slightly, But that's fine for, what was it, version 5? Version 5.
Yeah, it was fine for version 5, which is like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, we've come a few years since then. We've got the other pump as Clonan. Is Clonan doing this one? I think it is. No,
Albert
it's V.
and V.
Yep, it's as Albert and V said, Albert redid the other pump years ago, and they just never got around to this one. So I'm glad it's happened. It's well and truly overdue.
Oh yeah, I think that's actually now pretty much everything updated.
I do remember they saying assembly machines. I know I've had this argument before because assembly machines have had a high definition refresh.
Yeah, they did get a few actually high def refreshes.
Yeah, but if you remember, we did a Friday Facts where the yellow/green assembler actually becomes green. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so that was when they displayed the new version, or the work in progress towards the new version with the new. It was in the one that did the MIP maps, which we were also going to get tiny power poles sitting on belts with a different graphic that we don't have.
We do have the MIP map system.
We do have the MIP map system, but we don't have the different versions of. Power poles was one of the examples they used. Big power poles, because
quite a few.
It looks weird when you downsample it that much. So they had slightly different graphics each time they downsampled it. The system's in there, but we're not running that for some reason for power poles, assembly machines, a few other odds and ends. Does this now...
I was actually going to say, you actually reminded me with the assembly, going back to the assembly machines, the wooden power poles were actually old, ancient graphics, I think, and then they got... redone as proper high resolution version.
Yes, and at the same time they had a dedicated spot to put the red and green wires. So small power poles have been done, medium power poles have been done. I think big power poles have been done.
Big poles been done. Substations been done.
Yep. Roboport, maybe?
Done? It's been done, but
Roboport,
it's one of the older ones.
Done a long time ago.
It was done in like 15.
Yeah. And
it was one of the original high-res updates.
I don't know if it was...
With the regular pump, actually, too.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a high-res update or it was just we need to redo this graphics because it's definitely out of date. Same as the original pump was really, really out of date.
Yeah, the old pump was actually in the same aesthetic as the old Offshore.
Yeah. And funnily enough, I don't remember what the old pump looks like now.
Awful.
I'd have to look up the wiki or open a very old copy of Factorio to remember what those pumps look like. But yeah, I do remember they were definitely odd looking. Not nearly as good as the new versions.
And only like 30 fluid a second or something, 30 or 60. You have to have big, like 6 of them in parallel to actually get fluid through.
Oh, that's right, because they also remixed how much fluid they moved. At the same time, pumps had an extra, or fluid boxes had an extra 0 put on the end. So we went from 10 crude oil into your refinery to 100, and everything just went up by a factor of 10. These things you remember. But yeah, look, I don't know. I don't know what's still missing, what's still got to be added. Assembly machines is just one of those ones that comes to mind because of the color change that was going to happen. That sort of sticks. Along with the big power poles and the mid-map whole Friday Facts that hasn't seemed to have
the mid-maps, but the big poles themselves have been done.
Yeah, so I there might be some more that need to be done. They might be all done. I really don't know.
This is the last one that was on my building complaint list. The other one, the one previous to it, was walls.
Yeah,
because they went back a long way, and they got done in 17.
Have you added concrete onto your list to be redone again? Because bricks look like concrete, and concrete looks like okay.
I'm not touching that one ever again.
Okay.
So you got to. So for those who don't know, concrete has been changed so many times. It's been changed pretty much. It's 12 to
Every other
Correct,
version.
yeah.
Every other version, okay? That's the easiest way of putting it. Every other version, it's had an update. And currently, a lot of people complain because stone brick paving, when you put it down, looks like concrete. And when you put down concrete, it sort of looks a little bit like stone brick. Because they're actually
Yeah,
concrete
that was
on the
a-
left, and it's got divides in it and all sorts of lines, and yeah.
Yeah,
And funnily enough,
refined concrete sort of really changed everything up, didn't it?
well, funnily enough, I really, really liked the old stone brick because it looked like
Stone brick.
little terracotta bricks that you'd
Yeah.
find in pathways, in parks, and all that sort of stuff, where
Had a
people
nice
put down
aesthetic to it.
people put down a stone path, and they updated it for some reason. And we do have this one important line here: we're planning on releasing the new offshore pump graphics with the next release, likely next week. So it was written in there. It was written in there. Neither of us read that one line, but in theory it should be Tuesday. Tuesday, they say. And then we have a mod spotlight, which is interesting. So this one's done by V, who hasn't done that many mods. Actually, I don't remember any.
No, he's traditionally not been very strong at programming, so he's definitely up.
Yeah. So he's known in the Woob community, or the Woob in-house development team, as being the guy who makes the spaghetti. Really, really fine levels of spaghetti. And we can definitely see this from his second image. But the biggest problem...
I just like the wording.
What?
Of what you're about to read, or the next few sentences.
He hates beacons?
Oh, it's not that he hates beacons.
Okay. So yeah, beacons strongly motivate in a rectangular or repeatable patterns. The results generally look clean, but also very predictable and boring. Furthermore, the difference between a different recipe builds are only minimal, so visual style between builds is minimal, which I 100% agree with. The issue is he likes to build the opposite of clean and predictable. The factory looking increasingly complicated and hard to expand over time is what keeps me engaged and continues playing a map. When it starts to look easy, I lose interest. And I've got to say, I agree with V so much. My first dozen factories were all spaghetti, like the worst type of spaghetti you can imagine. And I would get a factory up and running back in, 13, where the only thing you could do to gauge the quality of your factory was to launch rockets back to back, and see how many rockets per minute hopefully you could get, or how quickly you get 2 rocket launches together. Without
simple times when 1 rocket a minute was a lot.
Yeah, it was simple times when getting over a rocket per minute was like ecstatic. Like you've reached the mega base scale. You know, a rocket every
You've
5.
reached the big time.
Rocket every 5 minutes was still pretty respectable, I have to say. But yeah, that's what I love playing. I would literally spend hours playing Chase the Bottleneck, go and improve something which improves something, to watch that timer go down by like 20 seconds between launches, and then watch it, go down another 10 seconds between launches, and just finding all those little improvements, which led to an absolute mess. But yeah, he says he's been trying to solve this for himself by either restricting myself from using beacons, which is a massive sacrifice of productivity and speed, or by putting sub-factories with high beacon counts outside the starting area, and keeping the organic starting area is key for me. Eventually, I thought about creating a mod that makes the machines behave as there are a maximum possible amount of beacons around them, allowing me to upgrade the starting base, and also have a higher demand on the throughput of logistics, which is the most interesting part, snaking more belts, fitting in more rail, which is myself and Pooba are doing a spaghetti, really tight spaghetti map with every sort of belt trick either of us can come up with.
The noodle map, ooh.
Oh, definitely. And there are some parts I look at it and just go, like, it is not possible to get something through that mess. And then I spend 3 minutes looking at it. I'm like, oh, no, I could probably get a belt through there by just moving that down a tile and that across a tile. And I can get another belt through there. It's fine. And I've been doing that for a couple of weeks now. And you're amazed at how much you have to think about the problem when it's not like there's a whole map clear and you can just put belts wherever and away you go. I really like the challenge of a confined spaghetti base where there is not many free tiles left, which is what V specializes in. And I'm probably going to have a good look at this mod when it comes out.
I think it's actually already out.
I don't know. I haven't actually looked. But it does say the mod defines 3 types are for every producer and to simulate beacons with tier 1, tier 2, or 3 speed modules in them. The machines cannot be further affected by normal beacons and only accept special productivity modules defined by the mod. Creating the mod was a lot of fun. He rewrote it 3 times. He was learning how to do it better. I had to get some basic graphics from their special passes, height, and ambience recursion that we use for production in our graphics workflow. I played with the mod and got some interesting results, and he's got an imager album, and he continued building the starting area instead of refactoring it with beacons. And his imager album is
It's very comprehensive.
it is. This is how he often releases his bases when they're done, or when he does post base details, and they are lots and lots and lots of imager albums. And I picked an overview of the main base, and I do love that he's always got the Factorio logo like dead smack center. And I think that's probably the hardest thing, probably trying to plan around center where center's going to be. That, and I do love the fact that he brings trains not into the factory, but like through the factory.
They are one with the factory.
Yeah, you think you get killed on your main lines. Can you imagine walking through this mess? With custom junctions and train tracks that don't link up to anything. And is that that's a 5-way junction. Oh boy. And a stacker in the middle of the base. Like, his bases are unique. They are a different scale. Oh boy.
They are a different breed.
Yeah, I just looked at the pipes for his oil refinery just below the Factorio logo. Okay. Yep. And he also left the cliffs in the base, which
Real masochism there.
yeah. But yeah,
also, I just checked, and the mod is up on the mod portal, built-in beacon.
Oh wow. Okay. Guess I'm not sleeping tonight. I got a factory to build. But yeah, he does have a pretty picture of basically how these work. So he's got like yellow assemblers, and furnaces, I guess is probably the best way to put it, and just, yeah, the special type of V spaghetti we all love, just to make red circuits. And the only thing, and I'm probably going to go swing by the mod portal, grab the model and the mod and have a look. He does mention 3 types of machines that simulate beacons with tier 1, 2, or 3 speed modules in them. I wonder how much it affects the actual speed, because like there's a big speed difference between a 8 beacon setup and a 12 beacon setup. And especially like refineries. Refineries you can go to what am I thinking? Yeah, 8 and 12, and refineries can go to like 20 beacons or something. 18 beacons? One or the other? Come on, Mojo. You're not helping.
So it gives you... Well, let's start with the... say the assembly machine.
Mm-hmm.
So... the red one is equivalent to 12 beacons around. So these are full beacons.
So that's 12 beacons. Yeah, the next one. So the orangish red one, red, orange. Yeah, let's go with orange.
With speed 1 modules in it. And then the one below it with the 2 gears, that is full beacon, 12 beacons with 2 speed 2 modules in it. And then the next one is 12 beacons with speed 3 modules.
Okay, so he's gone straight for speed, for 12 beacon layouts rather than a 8 beacon
rather than
layout.
8, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so the first one, the one that looks like a module, so that is a productivity module, which doesn't have the speed penalty applied to it. So it's a full speed productivity module.
Oh, so it's technically faster than what we get in vanilla. Because they do have a speed penalty.
They do have a speed penalty, but I have a feeling it doesn't actually, like, it's still effectively the same.
Okay, so what about the top module? Does it have a speed penalty?
No. So the full speed level 1 is productivity 2, and then level 2 is productivity 3%, and then productivity level 5%.
So just 5%.
Yeah, that's actually short.
That is short. Because normally it's 10% per module. Unless they
Yeah, because you go up
fit
to 40%.
8 modules. Hang on. Nope, never mind. They fit 8 modules.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Okay, so that solved that problem. Yeah, I bet the oil refineries are wrong because the oil refineries, you do have, what is it? It's definitely 5, 5, 4, and 4. It's definitely 18 beacons. 18 beacons around an oil refinery, which is a massive amount. And a lot of people...
16 beacons.
Really? Am I wrong?
Apparently, it's only 16.
Oh, no, because, it's 5, 5. It's perfectly square, so it'd be 5, 5. You already count the top row and the bottom row, so it'd be 3 and 3. Yeah, 16 beacons. Okay. It's 10 p.m. I'm allowed to quit and turn the brain off right now.
Yes.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And Mojo's going to do some maths whilst I go on with the next mod he wrote was a time-lapse screenshot tool. And it can be either used by taking screenshots every N ticks automatically, or in my case, give it a folder with save games in it, and it takes X number of screenshots and then moves on to the next save game. It's quite crude, so I won't release it on the mod portal for now. And then making beacons disappear in the machines allowed for more organic banks fits his perverted playstyle, which I fully love and agree with. Beacons actually do bring a lot of interesting motivations to the base game. Be a lot of fun with messing with the building rules that beacons force. So I have to say, the screenshot tool, the time-lapse screenshot tool, there is not a lot of good screenshot tools in Factorio, time-lapse tools.
Yeah, there's not a lot of amazing tools out there currently.
No, I ran one that made gigabytes and gigabytes worth of images, and the problem was I found out after running it for like 60 hours worth of gameplay and having a really, really good pile of images to make a good time-lapse with, that the center position for the first screenshot does not stay centered when you add more and more images and you explore more of the map. The top left position, which is position 0, 0, basically when you're talking about images, kept moving, and that was a real problem. Oh, stop it, YouTube. Okay, that was a real problem, and it just meant that I think it was like 400 gigabytes worth of images basically became useless. I could have tried and stitched them together and rearranged them in the video editing software to try and get them lined up. It just didn't work. I found out after the fact, the only way to get it to work is to pre-explore the map and then have it map out the section that you're going to screenshot and then make sure all your base is built within that area. And then it works great. And there's another one that only works in crashes if you run it on multiplayer. Because obviously multiplayer servers, dedicated multiplayer servers don't have a GPU, so they don't actually rendering the graphics, so it causes the whole thing to crash. And then there was the one that does the Google Maps, which does do a really good job, and you have to feed it save files, but it does it as a very, very static image and takes hours and hours and hours to process. And again,
especially if you explore a lot of map.
Yeah, and again, that was the other problem. Any chunks that don't have items in it, i.e. you build train tracks, like in the case of what's on my screen, V built train tracks out to outposts and different things. All the area that was like one chunk away from a train track would just be black. The Google time-lapse map one just didn't bother rendering and saving those images just to save data, but when you're trying to use a time-lapse, it looks funny with black spots in it.
The Google Maps one, I think it can either do it like radar coverage or discard it entirely.
Yeah, so it was, problematic as well. So I really, really hope V finishes making it less crude. I don't know how crude it is currently, and releases it, because dead set, I would happily do a series with an autosave every 20 minutes. How many autosaves do I want to keep? 3,000, please. And then when I'm done, just feed them all into a script and have a whole bunch of images that I can then make a really good time lapse. Because I've seen I've seen plenty of Factorio time lapses. There have been some really, really good ones. And if you haven't watched any, by all means, go on to YouTube. As soon as you finish watching this video, search for Factorio time lapse. There's, I think, 2 YouTubers that they've just done a bunch of time lapses and nothing else. And they're really, really, really good and really worth watching. But the tools that they use don't really exist anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I actually wonder if it uses any of the camera functionality that was added to the mod 8 the
The one that V wrote, hopefully, because there is when they added the cutscene controller, they did add a lot of functionality, and also when they released 18, they actually removed some of the zooming capabilities. So I have a screenshot tool that Muppet wrote up that's on the mod portal that I have used when doing base tours to like zoom in on me from a bird's eye view, or zoom out from me to like a map view to get an overview of a whole base. And that doesn't work terribly well anymore because they changed something in the API. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing.
So I don't even know why they changed it. Muppet didn't investigate. He just noticed it was changed and altered the mod so it worked and then left it there. So, yeah. Anyway, did you work out refineries?
Yes, as long as there's no follow-up.
Oh, okay, yep. And?
No follow-up questions.
Okay. All right, so that's what we're going to call it for Friday Facts 336. I'm looking forward to the new mod portal all about the time lapse, and I'm also looking forward to our new pump jacks our new offshore pumps. That's the words. And probably looking with the built-in beacons more in the future because that looks like a lot of fun to play with.
One thing I did notice is that with the built-in beacons is that the effective equivalent machine seems to consume twice as much power.
Who cares? Power's infinite. Just put down more solar.
Oh, I should have realized it's factoring in the beacon power consumption. So yeah,
yeah. Put down more solar. Like have a really tiny base and everything else is solar because that's how solar works.
Makes sense.
Put down lots of nuclear and accept that half your UPS is wasted on nuclear power. But you got to keep the lights on somehow.
Now we just need it for Factorio Extended.
What, better nuclear?
No, the built-in beacon. Built-in beacons extended.
Oh god, that'd be OP much? OP much?
Poor Jimmy John.
More importantly, does it use Module 3s or does it use the add-on patch for Module 6?
Well, I don't count that as existing because that's not part of the original pack.
No, it's not. But I started playing with them, and it's very, very interesting when you've got a gear machine that takes in 100 iron and puts out 150 gears, and you're just like, okay, sure. Productivity.
The loaders can't keep up.
No, 2 loaders could. 2 loaders could.
Oh, okay.
With a little bit of time, a little bit spare. Yeah.
I think it was like 2 loaders of plate in and 1 loader out was just enough without the extra.
Yeah.
On purple belt.
I think I had 2 red belts in and 2 purple belts out. For those that not familiar, 2 red belts in would be 60 items per second, and 2 purple belts out is like 150 items per second. Because Factorio Extended is similar to this mod. It adds 2 extra tiers to the whole game. So you go assembler 1, 2, 3, and then Factorio Extended adds 4 and 5. Same with the refineries. You get a 2 and a 3.
Pretty much every item
everything
has an extra tier on top of it.
Yeah, extra tier. Some of them have extra 2. Yeah.
Most of them have 2. Some only have 1. Like there's an extra. Some of them are actually redundant now because this is getting on a bit of a tangent because the mod was actually goes back to like version 12, so it has like an extra tier of ammo which didn't exist originally until before uranium came along. So it's actually sits in between red and uranium ammo.
I was just playing it, and I don't remember that ammo, but I was playing with so many different types of biters and everything else, and 15 different types of ammo. I couldn't honestly tell you if it was there. Yeah, there was lots of ammo choices for me. Everything including the BFG from Doom, which we were talking about before this, and we're going to go back to talking about afterwards. Anyway, that's it. We're out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you guys in Friday Facts 337. All right, bye.
Maybe on a Friday again.
Maybe on a Friday. That'd be nice. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.